Hi, welcome to Mrs. Park's Algebra 1 class. This is Chapter 6, Lesson 5, Applying Systems of Linear Equations. Okay, so why are we doing this? So you have an example here. In speed skating, competitors race two at a time on a double track. Indoor speed skating rinks have two track sizes for race events, an official track and a short track. Okay, so speed skating tracks, if you put X for official track and Y for short track, the total length of the two tracks is 511 meters. The official track is 44 meters less than 4 times the short track. The total length is represented by X plus Y equals 511. The length of the official track is represented by X equals 4Y minus 44. Because they said it was 44 meters less than 4 times the short track. You can solve the system of equations to find the length of each track. So in the previous sections, we've learned many different ways of solving for equations. So in this section, we're going to determine the best method. So you have 5 methods that we learned so far. In this section, we're going to learn which one to pick out to use to solve for your specific problem. Okay. Solving systems of equations. Okay, so we had the first method that we used was graphing. The best time to use, okay, to estimate solutions, since graphing usually does not give an exact solution. So the first method we used was when you had a graph and you had 2 equations on the graph. By finding the intersecting point right there, that's how we solve for our system of equations. So our substitution is when we had 2 equations and you can substitute one for the other, and then you'll find your answer for one variable and then substitute that into another equation for the other variable. Okay. So substitution looks something like if you had y plus 2x equals 3, and you had y equals 5x plus 1. So substitution was the method where instead of this y here, you put all of 5x plus 1, it's substituted for the y, you have 5x plus 1 plus 2x equals 3. And then you solve for x. Once you found your x, you put it in here and just find your y. Excuse me. Okay. Elimination using addition and elimination using subtraction. This is the method where you had 2 equations lined up. Let's say you had 2y plus 3x equals 5. And let's say you had 2y plus 5x equals 8. So substitution or elimination using subtraction was when you subtracted these, you eliminated the y, and you have 3x minus 5x, and you find what your x is. Okay. Elimination using multiplication. This was the very last section we worked on. This was when you cannot have a same coefficient. You can't add or subtract. So you would have to multiply by a certain number to make it look like the same coefficient in order to go back to using elimination and using addition or subtraction. Okay. All right. Example 1, choose the best method. All right, so here, determine the best method to solve the system of equations. Then solve the system. Okay, so here you have 4x minus 4y equals 8, negative 8x plus y equals 19. To determine the best method to solve the system equations, look closely at the coefficients of each term. So you have 4, negative 8, and if there's no number here, that's an imaginary 1. Okay, neither the coefficients nor x nor y are the same or additive inverses. So you cannot add or subtract to eliminate a variable. Since the coefficient of y in the second equation is 1, you can use substitution. So even though the textbook wants to use the substitution method here, you can use any one of those 5 methods and you can still get the same answer. So here's our study tip. Alternative method. The system of equations in example 1 can also be solved by using elimination with multiplication. So what they mean by that here, instead of using substitution, they can multiply everything down here by 4, which would have made it negative 32x plus 4y equals, let's see, 476. Okay. So here, if we did that with the bottom part, you notice that the coefficients are now the same, with negative 4x plus 4y. Negative 4y plus 4y. So you can add add these two and eliminate. So we would add and find out what x is and define what y is. Okay, so that's an alternative method. You can use that one, you'll still get the same answer. The textbook here still wanted to use substitution for this question. Okay, so let's see what happens when they use substitution. Okay. Oops. Nope. Not that one. Let's go back and freeze this one. Okay, so first they put in the second equation instead of, okay, so it's the second equation, and they added 8x to each side, and then you got y equals 19 plus 8x. Okay, so here now you can substitute the y for 19 plus 8x. So instead of y, they put 19 plus 8x. They went ahead and solved for x. Okay, here they use the distributive property. And then they eliminated this negative 76 by adding 76 on each side. Divided by negative 28. And you have x equals negative 3. Last, once they got this x equals negative 3, they put it back into the original equation here. Instead of the x, they put negative 3 and solve for y. So remember, when you write your answer, you put x first and then y in order pair. So negative 3 and negative 5. Okay, using a graphing calculator to check your solutions. So remember, in section 1 we learned how to graph these in our calculators, and you calculate their intersection, and here they did that and they got negative 3 and negative 5, and so you know your answer is correct. Okay, so this slide I want to show you which method to use. Not necessarily I want to solve each problem, but I want to go over with you which method would be the best to use. So here, I already see this y by itself. So I could change the entire equation into y equals. That would be y equals 3x minus 3. So this one I would actually use substitution. So instead of this y here, I would substitute all of 3x minus 3, which would be 4x plus 2 times 3x minus 3 equals 14. Okay, so I will use the distributive property here and to find out what x equals. Once you have a number, I will put this number back into here to find out what y equals. So once you find your answer for x, you would do 3 times that number minus 3 will tell you what y is, and you would have your ordered pair x and y. For number 7, I see here this x is by itself, so I'll say x equals 3y plus 8. So again, I will use substitution. Instead of x here, I would put 3y plus 8 instead of the x. You distribute the property again. Okay. And once I find out what my y equals, and this number that you find here, y equals, I would put back in here after I find it and find out what x equals. Okay. Oops. Number 8. If you look at the 3x and the negative 3x, they added an inverse. I would eliminate that by adding. So that would eliminate this and give you what? Negative 10y equals negative 10. So once you find your y, I would substitute that into any one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. If I put in the first one, you have 3x minus 4 times 1 is still 4 equals negative 5. And 3x, when you add 4 to each side, you have negative 1. X equals negative 1 over 3. So you find the answer would be negative 1 over 3. 1. Okay. Alright, so I believe next one is your turn. So go ahead and do number 6, 7, 8 on a separate sheet of paper. Whoops, no, that's what we just did. So go ahead and do your turn numbers 1 through 4 on a separate sheet of paper. Determine the best method to solve the system equations, then solve the system. Make sure you hand it in tomorrow for credit. Come back when you're done. Okay. Real world example 2. Alright, let's talk about some penguins here. Penguins. Of the 17 species of penguins in the world, the largest species is the emperor penguin. One of the smallest is the Galapagos penguin. The total height of the two penguins is 169. The emperor penguin is 22 centimeters, more than twice the height of Galapagos penguin. Find the height of each penguin. Okay, so the first equation they're going to use, the total height of the two species can be represented by, okay, just adding the P and G gives you 169. That's your first equation, where P represents the height of the emperor penguin and G is the height of the Galapagos penguin. Okay. The second equation is the emperor penguin is 22 centimeters more than, okay, 22 centimeters more than twice the height of G. So 22 plus 2G equals P. Okay. So we have these two equations here. You can use either substitution or you can use elimination. So if you want to use substitution, I would just put 22 plus 2G instead of P here and find for G. In the textbook, they want to use elimination. So with the second equation here, what they did was put it into P minus 2G equals 22. So they can line up the P's here and subtract it to eliminate the P's. Okay, they found a G, and once you find a G, you can find your P. Okay, so once they found their G, which was 49, they found their P by substituting the G here. It got P equals 120. Okay, so this is your turn. Determine the best method of system equations and solve the system. Okay, and I believe this is the last problem. So once you're done, make sure you put it back in your book bag so you can hand it in for credit tomorrow. And thanks for watching.